Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Tussig Talks podcast. Today, myself and Ciaran sat down to talk about what it takes to win. We talked about the mindset required to do something great, the difference between confidence and competence, why you must enjoy the journey on your road to success, and much more. If you do enjoy the episode, please make sure to share it with your friends. We hope you enjoy it.
Darragh, what does it take to win?
Straight in, no messing.
No,
What does
no,
it
we're
take
not
to
messing.
win?
We're not messing this week.
It's a good one. Honestly, it is an important question. I think that we need to address because some people are afraid to win, and I think in life there's always going to be winners and losers. Of course, you always want to be on the winning side, but I think, as probably both of us know, um, from especially me over the last couple of years, winning is not always something that happens and comes easy. So um, I think that question is something that we can dive into across the episode, because I don't really think there's one singular thing that is a huge contributor to winning and to being a winner. Because I think maybe there's a difference in those. So yeah, I think kind of gone around the question there. I don't know. My media training is coming in handy here. Um, but what do you think? What do you think it takes?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with the whole it's not as black and white as what does it take to win, because I think you need to, in order to answer that question, you need to have an ability to answer, well, what is winning, and I think that's very subjective and it's a very individualized answer to a lot of different people. I think it depends on what your goals are. I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve. And then I also think it depends on whether or not you define success maybe as a, is it a win or lose? Is there a metric? Is it all about the objective? Is it all about outcome? In this is one of the most important lessons that I've learned, and as I've been growing up, is I used to always associate winning with win or lose. And I know that sounds really weird, but I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but I don't necessarily look at the outcome always now anymore when I'm talking about winning or losing. There's a bigger scope to winning or losing for me now. And maybe that's just a cop out because I've done a lot of losing in my time and I don't want to really have to say I'm this big loser, but um I think one of the most important lessons that we can get across in this episode is that losing doesn't necessarily mean failing, and winning doesn't necessarily mean succeeding insofar as you're getting closer to your goals. You can succeed at an outcome, or you can successfully get through an outcome, like win a tennis match, for example, or win a football match, but you can also do that by not getting better. And I think my vision has changed in the last few years as to, am I, each time I step onto a tennis court, because this is I can only speak in so far as tennis and how that leads into my daily life and stuff, but tennis, each time I go out onto the tennis court, I'm not focusing on the outcome of, did I win the tennis match or did I lose the tennis match. I'm focusing on, did I get better in that space of time that I was on the tennis court, and that focus is I've shifted my focus onto process oriented goals. And I think that's really, really important in terms of kind of the whole notion of winning or losing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right in the sense that what's the saying? You either win or you learn. Like, I know me, with a lot of the injuries over the past couple of years, I've done a lot of losing in the sense that I've missed out on a lot of experiences that I would have had if I would have been playing and I wasn't injured. And again, that's kind of you can see that as maybe a loss, or you can see that as a learning opportunity. And that's what I'm kind of trying to take forward into this injury that I have at the moment. Is yeah, of course, it's like a big one, and I'm kind of unknown of what it really means. But at the same time, I'm trying to take it as a lesson and learn from it as much as possible. And I was listening to a podcast. Hormozy and Chris Williamson were on together, and and they talked about kind of winners and losers, and that's kind of where the idea of this concept kind of came about. And Hormozy had two kind of quotes that were similar. The first one was, winners define themselves by what they made happen. Losers define themselves by what happened to them. And the second one is, victims see their past as their fate. Champions see their past as their origin story. And I think both of those two are tied together in the sense that, you know, people who lose a lot kind of just remove the attachment and the feeling to that loss. They understand that that loss is an important step in their journey to success, or their journey to becoming the person or building the thing that they want to build or become. And I think when you make that switch from, okay, you know, I've lost in this period of my life, but you can also look back on the time as a time of learning. And it's kind of it's a weird switch that you can make, and it's quite difficult in a sense. It took me a long time to be able to, you know, disassociate loss and kind of learning, because I think they're tied together in a complex way that you don't see unless you become probably extremely self-aware. So maybe that's a cool thing to talk about, because, you know, people may not understand and may not be able to disassociate the two. You know, a loss is just this extreme heartbreak. You know, you tried all of for years to make this thing happen and it didn't work out, and you could say that that's a loss. What a waste of time. Or you could say, you know, I've learned so much across the journey of building or creating this thing that maybe it wasn't even a loss in the first place. Maybe it was a lesson, and maybe it was the start of something completely different. So those quotes really hit home, and that's honestly why I wanted to talk about this type of thing, because so many people see loss as a negative when in reality it could be seen as a positive.
So would you say that in order to be a winner or an overall winner in the grand scheme of things, when all is said and done, do you need to go through a certain amount of losing to get to that place?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I think for me especially, I I've done a lot of watching people win, a lot more recently than others, especially when you're sitting on the bench because you're injured. And both teams that I've been on have done really well. And for me, sitting here watching that, it's really difficult. Like in a way that's kind of hard to explain, because on one hand you have to be happy because your teammates are doing well, your housemates are doing well. But on the other hand, selfishly, you're kind of upset that you're not playing, or you're upset that you're injured. Um, so I've had to do a lot of work to be able to, you know, use the injuries and use the heartbreak of, you know, watching other people do well, um, to my advantage, which is extremely difficult, and it's something that I'm still doing to this day. It's not like I haven't mastered, but I definitely feel like losing is such an important part of anyone's journey. I think if you read like anyone's biography or autobiography who's become great and who's done anything, you know, important, you'll notice that they continuously lost, or they continuously fell short. But it's almost that, you know, that confidence to be able to continue to push and continue to try regardless of these losses. Um, I definitely think people need ultimate confidence in themselves, because even when in times where no one else does, like, you still need to be confident in yourself and your own ability that you're going to create this thing, you know. Like in one of my physics classes, um there's a load of like OG Apple computers, like old blocks. They're massive there.
Okay.
And like, obviously I'm daydreaming, I probably should be paying attention in my physics class, but I'm looking at these computers, these massive bricks, like the old Apple logo and everything. And then I'm looking down at my phone and I'm like, those were created by one person with a singular vision, you know? Like that big brick in my physics class was his first idea. That probably at the time, I think there's a movie about this. I want to watch it again. But at the time, people were comparing, like Windows and Apple, and Microsoft and Apple. And Microsoft probably were the better product. But if you look at like people nowadays, the majority of people have Apple products. And it's because Steve Jobs and the people in that circle were just so committed and so willing to be able to lose and so willing to lose to eventually win in the long run. And I think again that goes back to like the whole short term and long term, like having a long term vision and stuff like that. But he was probably willing to take criticism, take the losses on the chin of not selling X amount of computers this month and the next year or whatever, to be able to succeed by having his product in every single one of our pockets. I just think that's fascinating, and it's quite inspiring, to be honest. And I don't think many people, but probably because physics is so hard, but there's probably not many people in my physics class that are actually thinking that way, which is probably the same with people who are listening to this episode.
Yeah, I want to pick up on something that you said there. You said in passing, kind of like you kind of need this confidence and this like overwhelming confidence in what you're doing is going to succeed and stuff. And I want to pick your brain on it because I don't really know. To be honest, I don't know where I stand on this topic, and it's something that I'd relate to a lot in terms of like how I've gone about life and how I've gone about my sports and stuff in the past. Like, do you believe that you need complete and utter confidence in order to succeed? Like, is for everyone else that doesn't have confidence, is there just no way that they'll succeed? Or do you think that the most successful people have this like innate confidence? Or I want to know your views surrounding confidence and how that relates to this podcast in insofar as winning.
Confidence is a complex topic, I definitely think that serial winners and people who succeed beyond the imagination of kind of normal people, let's say, have this sort of delusional confidence. It's kind of what I've written about it a few times, and I've kind of sat and thought about it a lot. Is the term delusional confidence. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, Tom Brady, Serena Williams, like these people are so far ahead of the average person, let's say. Yes, because of their skill, and yes, because of their ability to execute on a certain day or whatever. But I also believe that they have this delusional confidence that nothing is going to faze them, and it is their singular goal is to be the best. And I think you can probably take some inspiration from that. I don't think everyone needs to win Wimbledon or win a World Cup. I don't think that's even possible. But I think being able to tap in and learn from these people, how they go about their life, you can then relate it to some aspect of your life. So delusional confidence to me is that undeniable, proof, an idea of success in your mind that nothing is going to faze you. No obstacle or no, kink in the rope is going to push you off the path that you're on. And I think I love this idea and love this, this idea of success being a straight road and only not having any fuck ups, basically. But it really, in reality, that's just not how it works. So being aware and understanding that, yeah, there's going to be detours on this path to wherever your end goal is, but understanding and being aware of the fact that these detours are that's all they are. They're just detours that are going to bring you to the exact same place. And it's that confidence in yourself that you're going to execute on the level that you need to get to the certain place that you want to. And I think, Hormozy talks about this as well. Like, confidence is not like looking in the mirror and telling yourself. It's having the stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. And again, that comes from repetitive action and probably repetitive loss and learning to then win. You know what I mean? So I think, like, confidence is key. How do you develop confidence? That's another question that probably you could ask. And I think, again, it's not, you don't just get confidence one morning or by reading a book. Like, I really do feel like you have to get confidence by losing, learning from the loss, and then going on and winning and creating the version and person that you want to be. And I think that's where confidence comes into it. I think confidence is such an important skill for people who want to be extremely successful, but also those who just want to, live a good life and have a good time. I do feel like you need to have a certain confidence and a certain aura around you that, you are who you say you are, and you have gone through some tough times, but you've grown and you've succeeded out of those tough times. And I really do feel like kind of confidence is one of the main drivers in that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I definitely I definitely hear that. Like, and I'd agree to a certain extent. I just feel that like confidence is a feeling, you know, like it's a feeling that's evoked within inside of us, and it's not something that will last forever, and it's not something that it's not a permanent state. This is what I think anyway. I don't feel like I don't wake up every day, go onto the tennis court, and be like, "Jeez, I am confident today. I'm hitting that ball so nice that I'm hitting the ball like I'm just because I'm so confident. I'm hitting the ball so nice today. I'm feeling it on the strings of my racket, and I'm just hitting it so clean today." Or in the same with football, like I am so confident. Like delusional confidence to me, I think of like you can't kid a kidder type thing, and I feel like there are certain when you're not feeling confident, I feel like that's a belief within inside of yourself. And I feel like beliefs aren't, you can't really change beliefs. If you, I heard Stephen Bartlett talk about beliefs, and he was talking once about like, if I gave you a €1 coin, and I was like, I want you to believe that that's a 50-cent coin, you wouldn't be able to do it because your belief and from what you know and from what you've built in your head, you know that that's a €1 coin. And I feel like confidence like that is a feeling that comes and goes. And I think if we're constantly relying on confidence to be the thing that determines whether or not we're going to win or not, I think we're going to be waiting around for a long time. And I think that reliance on this confidence or delusional optimism or whatever you want to call it is it potentially a risky game, because sometimes we're not going to be able to convince ourselves and believe in that we can do the sort of thing. And I'm saying this from a place of like, probably because of I'm coming from a place of like low self-worth, like belittling beliefs within myself, kind of that sort of thing. That's where I've come from. And I think how I got through that was by, of course, building confidence, but I think you do that by a belief in your competence. I think I've talked about this before, and it's the exact same thing as what Hormozy says about like you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror. Like you said, you build it by having that stack of undeniable proof. And it's when you are in a moment of like needing to succeed or needing to complete a goal. Well, what do? You go back to all the times that you succeeded at that thing before. And say for me, before I go to the baseline and hit a serve, I know that I've hit a million serves in my lifetime successfully and really well. So I know no matter how I'm feeling on a day to day, today I could be feeling really confident on the tennis court, but tomorrow I could be feeling shit on the tennis court and it feel as if I've never played the sport before. But on those bad days, I know that I've hit 1 million serves before, and I know that I've made them all, and I know that I'm able to complete this action So that if I can just rely on that, on my knowing that I'm able to do the skill, then I don't really need to rely on an emotion to get me through the skill. No matter how I feel, if I feel really confident, great. If I feel no confidence at all, it doesn't really matter, because I know no matter how I feel, how anxious I feel, how whatever feeling I'm feeling, I can still complete the skill because I know I've done it enough times. And I think that's an important kind of distinction to make, is that, like,
Yeah.
yes, I think it depends on the individual, because so for someone that is just, say, I don't know about you, but say you, for example, you are able to convince yourself of this delusional confidence and believe in the fact that you can do this thing no matter how you feel. But for me, I don't know if it's skeptical or cynical or whatever, if whenever someone tells me you have to believe in the fact that you can do it, like, you need to go onto the court believing you can win, I find that that's maybe a little bit
Forced, is
rich.
it?
Yeah, I think so, for me, because, like, a lot of the times when I was a kid, I had lost a tennis match before I'd even stepped on the court because I thought that the other person was better than me, and I just didn't believe in myself. But I think when people are like, you have to believe in yourself to be able to win, I don't know if you really do have to believe in yourself to win all the time. Like, I don't really think you need to go so far as to say, like, I know I'm going to win, or I believe I'm going to win, because there's so many things that are uncontrollable in sports. And of course, I'm only talking to this in terms of sports because this is how I know everything on earth. This is how I've learned all my life lessons, is through sports, I guess. But, like, the place where I've got to now in my life is probably very different to where you are. Is that, like, when I go onto a tennis court, or when I have a goal that I want to achieve, I don't get to a place where I convince myself that I'm 100% going to win this, or I'm 100% going to achieve this, because I know that I'm good, or I'm way better than everybody else, and I'm going to beat everybody. The way I go about believing things now is that I believe that if I execute all the goals that I've set before trying to achieve a thing, and I execute each of those process-oriented goals to the best of my ability, I know that I'm giving myself the best opportunity to succeed. And then from that, results will look after themselves. I also have to believe that I'm at a baseline where and put myself on a line where everybody else is, and not put people ahead of me, and understand that if I put myself in those positions and I execute on those goals, those process-oriented goals, then yeah, I absolutely have an ability to win. But I think, I don't know, for me, it's always been tough to, like, in certain instances, be like, believe you're going to win. Like, believe that you're the best out there, or whatever, because that's just naturally not who I am, I guess.
Yeah, it's of course, I think you could look at, let's say, the extremely high performers, and you could say, like, oh, they have a massive ego. And I think, like, ego is sometimes cast in sort of a negative light. I admire people who have a massive ego, but who also back it up with results. People hate Ronaldo for, saying that he's the best player in the world. But, like, no one else has scored 900 goals. It's like, if there is one person to have a massive ego, he's probably one of them. So I think maybe there's a distinction, like you said, between, like, the ego and the confidence. Between, as I'm thinking now, it could be more so like delusional, like optimism, rather than the confidence. It could be like optimism that, things are going to work out regardless of, the obstacles that are put in my way, instead of,
Yeah.
like, putting all the, the light on me, on the individual, like the confidence and the ego within that person. Is almost like putting your faith out in the universe, kind of thing, and being like, okay, well, like you said, if I do everything and if I execute to the best of my abilities, things are going to work out. So maybe it's more so an optimism thing than a confidence thing. And I think, like I said, I think there is a distinction between serial winners and people who just have a good life. And growing up, I definitely didn't see myself as one of those serial winners. I didn't see myself as an extremely high performer, probably because I was late to being introduced to kind of like the highest level of sport in Ireland. And, you know, there was a period of time there where I did see myself as a extremely high performer in a high performance, you know, setup, you know, like in the League of Ireland. You feel within yourself that you're one of the best players on the pitch. They were the best. They were the times when I played my best football. There was that confidence to say, okay, I know what I need to do here. And you go out and you execute. And it's almost like you're not thinking. It's like you get into that flow state. It's like you said before, you know, your serve. For me, it was my set pieces as well. It was corners and free kicks. It was, I knew that I didn't even need to think about my run up. I didn't need to think about where I was going to strike the ball. It all came so natural because of the fact that I'd done it so many times before. And it was that confidence in myself to say, okay, you've scored one from here before. So that means there's no reason why you can't do it again. So just, and oftentimes if I ended up thinking too deeply about taking the corner, I wouldn't beat the first man and everyone would shout at me. And it's this rule in football that if you don't beat the first man from a corner, you're terrible. So eventually, like I said, again, I got to that stage where it was like, I'm fully confident in my ability. I've done this so many times before that I'm able to execute. And, you know, maybe it's all going to work out. And I definitely feel like I've battled with that recently because of the fact that all the injuries have happened. That's I haven't been able to train a lot. So watching people and you're like, yeah, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, like I was a lot better than him, that fella, whatever. But now it's like, he's trained like for 2 years more than me. And it's something that I'm certainly battling with, is like, I'm probably not at that level anymore. And it's hard because, like, on one hand, you're like, oh, you were a serial winner. You had that extreme confidence at one stage. But then to completely drop off and, you know, not play and not be able to execute that thing, your confidence does get shot. And I really feel like one of the most important things that I had to do in this kind of journey was like disassociate and being an athlete and being a person, because I think maybe confidence is different in each aspect. You know, if someone asks you a question like, you know, like, who are you? And you say, I'm a footballer. That's not really great because, you know, who are you when football is not there? And that's something that I had to deal with a lot. You know, it was a big loss for me when I was like, I've been injured now 7-8 weeks now, and it's like I haven't played. It's hard in a sense that you have to tell yourself, oh, when I get back, if I get back, I'm going to be at the same level. Is that ego? Is that confidence? I don't know, you know, so definitely, like, I've kind of said a lot there, I've kind of waffled a little bit, but I think ego can be good, but it also can be a bad thing. But I also feel like, you know, being able to execute at a high level because you know you've already executed up until that point will help you massively.
I think if that's one thing that I could stress about, if someone asked me what it takes to win, if that's whatever the title of this podcast will end up going out as next week, like, I think if someone asked me that, it's that in order to win, when you step out, whether it be on the day of competition or you're achieving a goal or something, like, competition is just an ordinary performance on a special day, right? And I think for anyone that really, really wants to win and be very successful in sports or in anything, you have to get to a certain level of autonomy that, you know, that, like that in flow state, your body just does the thing that it's supposed to do. And you're so prepared and you're so able to do the skill without even thinking that, like, it just seems normal to you. And that's what I would say about, like, the best performers in the world, is that when they know and it comes down to tight moments and tense situations and 90th minute winners. The people that succeed in those moments are the people that have done that thing in practice or in matches a million times before. And I think one way in which I try and get to a better level of this is through visualization. I want to hear what you think about visualization. I think maybe for a lot of people, and probably in particular a lot of Irish people, they just call that off and be like, "Jay, that is a whole lot of fairy
Wishy-washy.
shit." Yeah, exactly. But I think I honestly do swear by it, and it's something that at the start I completely called off as well. And I was like, "What are you talking?" When my coach was talking to me about that, I was like, "What are you talking about? That is just baloney. Like, there's no way that would ever help me." But if you say, I don't know, say you're the night before a cup final in football, and you're the penalty taker, and in the 90th minute it's 1-1, and you're told go up there and take that penalty and win this for us. There's so many things that could potentially throw you off in that moment if you're not prepared to do the thing. And this stands for anything, and for anything that you do. I think there's a definite comfort in familiarity of where you are and what you're doing. So if before I go to bed or whatever, if I've thought of the boots I'm wearing, I'm thought of the gloves that the keeper's wearing, I'm thought of the 10,000 people that are in the stadium, I'm thinking of the grass, I'm thinking of how there might be a little like hole on the penalty spot, so I might have to put it a little bit left of the penalty spot or whatever. If you've thought of every single detail and in as much specifics as possible, and you visualize that thing 100 times, when you actually get into the moment, sure, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be scared of, because you've put yourself in that situation before. It just is. It's normal. There's a certain normal, like, you've normalized what that feeling is. So then there's no space for your mind to be like, oh shit, what do I do, because you're so clear on your plan to execute that you know how to survive in that scenario. So I don't know, what do you think? Like, is visualization something that you've done in the past, or is it something you've given a go, or what? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I definitely done it. Like, I really feel there was a need for me to do it. Actually funny you've kind of mentioned it, because my opinion is slightly changed, and this is actually an interesting topic that maybe I wasn't really going to talk about in this episode. But I am reading a book at the moment called "The Power of Now" by
I've
Eckhart
heard
Tolle.
about it. Yeah,
It's deep, let's just say, and I think it's good, again, to like broaden your horizons with lots of different topics and understand topics from both sides of the story to be able to form your own opinion, first of all. So visualization was something that I did, like, definitely, taking free kicks, taking corners, scoring goals, like those types of things. Before matches, I would do it all the time. I'd always think, and again, maybe the confidence in my ability allowed me to visualize positive things. I think maybe if you don't have the confidence, you may be able to visualize bad things, which probably isn't beneficial. But in the book, he talks about how, you shouldn't really think in the future. Like, you should solely focus on being present and being in the now. And I sort of see where he's coming from, because he talks about how, like, the future is an illusion. Like, at the end of the day, the future will never happen, because it is always the future. And your future is just a future present moment. You know what I mean? Like, you're thinking about the future where you take that penalty, but the moment when you take that penalty is going to be the now, is going to be the present. It's kind of it's a bit out there, to be fair. But yeah, if you take your mind out of the present moment a lot, you end up living in the future, and you're not living in the present moment, which is kind of is not good for you, because again, you're always thinking about what's next. And like I said, he talked about how like the future is an illusion. And again, I visualize my future, let's say, in positive remark. Like I do believe that my future is going to be good, and you have to look at it from a positive outcome, and you're going to achieve the things that you want to achieve. I think that's important. But sometimes when I visualize too deeply about the future, it makes me kind of resent and not enjoy the moment I'm currently in. Um, so I think there maybe is a distinction between you visualizing, you executing, compared to you visualizing just a broad future, you know? Because, like I said, for me, thinking about the future and the life that I want to live in the next 5, 10, 15 years takes me out of the present moment, and it almost changes the want and the desire to execute right now, you know? Like me visualizing about the future that I want to live will not will make me not work now because I'm thinking about, oh, that's going to happen, you know? So like I said, I'm in that 50-50 now where I'm like, this is the thing that I used to believe. This is now a new thought process that has been brought into my mind. And now, when I finish the book, I'm only halfway through. Maybe I could find a happy medium, and maybe we'll come on and we'll chat about my findings. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. I like I said, I definitely done it. But now I'm kind of like 50-50. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and to a certain extent, yeah, okay, I agree that um, visualizing too far and doing too much is just going to eliminate your ability to do the thing in the now. So I get that, but I suppose I was only talking related to like sports performance and like performance and executing a goal, and I think
Gotcha.
for me, preparation is the key to anxiety. And if I'm not prepared, I know that if I get to a moment of, say, if I haven't hit enough serves in the week before a match and I get to match points and I'm not feeling great over my serve, I'm going to start feeling anxious because my serve's not feeling great.
Mhm.
But I've always been a belief in like the amount of, if I'm feeling anxious about being able to complete a skill, it means that I'm not prepared enough. And if I've done all that I can do in the lead up to this sports performance, or executing a goal, then that's all I can do, and I have to be happy with that, you know. And I think visualizing is a part of that, and visualizing the night before a tennis match, visualizing me in every scenario possible, then means that when I'm in one of those scenarios, I'm familiar with the feelings that I'm going to come across,
Yeah.
whether those are feelings of elation or fear or anxiety or any sort of feeling. I know that I've been in this scenario
You've
before,
already
and I know it,
experienced it.
and I know what I'm going to do in order to deal with it. So the night before a tennis match, I'm visualizing all scenarios, and I'm not every single point, but I'm saying, okay, well, let's visualize. I go, this is the easiest match of my life, and it's 6-love, 5-love, and I'm doing really well. How am I gonna execute then? Well, I'm going to I'm going to continue to be clinical, and I'm going to execute my plans, and I'm going to get in and then get out, and this is going to be a very good performance or whatever. Or I'm also going to visualize, okay, it's 4-all in the first set, and this is a really important moment because if I lose this point, I go 5-4 down. So okay, well, that's a feeling of anxiety. And what am I going to do when I'm feeling those feelings of anxiety? Well, okay, I know that I'm going to remember to go to my cues. I'm going to go to my towel. I'm going to think of the point in which I'm trying to execute for the next point. I'm going to visualize that point, and then I'm going to go and do the thing. And I'm going to do that to my best ability. Or and then that's how I'm going to plan. That's how I'm going to execute in that scenario. Or we go to the other end of the spectrum. I'm losing 6-love, 2-love, and I haven't won a game yet. How am I going to be feeling then? And what am I going to do in order to execute and find a way to get back? I think the power of visualizing, and for me anyway, is really helpful because it familiarizes myself with any sort of feeling that I'm going to feel in the day of performance, because I don't need any new feelings or emotions coming in while I'm playing a tennis match, because it's already stressful enough. So if I'm familiar with those feelings, and whether they're good, bad, indifferent, I'm familiar with them and I can continue forward after that, you know?
I want to go back. You talked about like your cues.
Yeah.
I know Nadal is famous for his like, the way he fixes his hair
Yeah,
and
yeah.
does his whatever. And I rate that. Like again, that's him centering himself. Do you like how do I say, like, purposely go through those steps, or are you in a certain flow state that you do those like involuntarily, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think flow state is a bit wishful thinking. And there's times where you'll go through a tennis match and you don't even reach flow state. Flow state is the moment in which you're so present and so focused that you're not even thinking. But I think you can only get into you can only get into that state by executing the cues that you have set forth in front of you. Um, so that needs to be done at every single point, and it needs to be done and it needs to be practiced every single time you're on the tennis court. And that's what I mean by, like, say, practicing under pressure, or competition is just an ordinary performance on a special day. You need to practice these things time in and time and again, in order for when you're in the moment, you know that these are the things that are going to get you into the present moment. Because, okay, in agreement with what the book that you're reading now, the power of being in the present is the most powerful thing in order to have the ability to win. So I do those cues and those things, and they're different for everybody, and it depends on, most of the time your cues depend on like your senses, and whatever sense is most kind of your most potent sense. So
Strongest, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So for me, it might be different to what yours is or whatever, but you need to do those things if you're losing 6-love, or you're winning 6-love, or whatever, or it's really tight. You need to be able to rely on those things to get you back into the present moment. So yeah, you can only do those things to stay in the present, or to get yourself into the present. And I telling you now, for anyone listening, Rafa Nadal, Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, the best sports performers in the world, are just as humans' attention spans are shit. Like, they're so bad.
Because
But
of TikTok.
the best performers in the world are the best at regaining their presence as soon as they realize that they've lost their presence, or
I
they've
love
lost
that.
their consciousness in the present moment. Those highest performers in the world are the best people at regaining the present. And it's those cues that you do with Rafa, whether it's the fixing the water bottles, or the hair, or the certain amount of bounces before each serve, or the picking of his underwear, or whatever. Like, he's doing those things to put himself back into the present moment, which I think is one of the most important things for performing and for winning.
Yes, flow state is it's an unbelievable feeling. It really is, and I feel like I need to kind of relearn my cues on how to get into that flow state, because as someone who is quite possibly transitioning out of the sport, that I've done for my whole life, that again our whole life revolves around, and all of our life lessons have come from the sport. So it's like the cue for me, to get into flow state was probably in the dressing room, fixing my socks and taking a sip of Lucozade before going out on the pitch and smelling the grass. And is that first whistle is like, okay, it's time now. It's not like, okay, I need to run here, I need to do this. It's almost like there's this constant zen of presence. And like I said, for someone who hasn't played in in 8 weeks, and who now needs to focus on, you know, putting the head down in the books and things like that, I need to learn how to get back into flow state. And I definitely feel like sometimes, I'm just going about my business and just kind of doing work as a means to an end. Like I'm just doing homework or whatever, and or editing these, and it's like if I almost could learn the cues and learn how I get back into flow state, stuff could be banged out much quicker. Stuff could be, I could learn more. I could maybe grow more, and I feel like I said, I need to just get back into that mode. Do you have any, like obviously you said, tennis is the way you've learned a lot. Like, do you have any other things that, like flow state for you, let's say, can you get into flow state outside of tennis?
Yeah, and that's something that I was actually just gonna like ask you about. Like you
Mm.
say you want to relearn these skills and stuff, but the skills that you're learning and trying to become present and achieve flow state or whatever in sports, they're a necessity in your career and in anything you want to do. Say for you, for example, whatever you want to do, whether that's be an influencer or be a PT or whatever you want to do in life, you potentially are going to have to talk in front of like a convention of 500 people, and in order to for you to get on stage, the way in which you're going to reach optimal performance and speak the best in front of those people is by being in the present moment. So the same skills that you applied when you were in the dressing room playing football are going to be the exact same skills that you're going to need in any career that you do, okay, it might be different because you're not going to pull up your suit socks and drink a bottle of Lucozade or something before going out and talking to 500 people. It might be different, or maybe it's the same. I don't know, but it's the same principle, and that's something that I've like. Tennis has taught me so many invaluable lessons, not only to help me perform better on the tennis court, but that I now bring into the day-to-day life. And say, like for example, not growing up, I wasn't always the best test taker, but since playing tennis and since working on like my mental game or whatever to try and succeed and try and just be better, I now am better at taking these exams because, say, the night before an exam, I'm visualizing myself in the exam room, and I know that I'm going to have three pencils beside me. I'm going to have my watch on the right corner of the table, and I'm going to see myself in the classroom. I'm going to picture what it smells like. I'm going to picture the people that are sat around me. That visualization is really, really important because, and so like, okay, and I know that might sound wishy-washy, but it's just another thing that tries to get me into the present moment. Because ultimately that's the only place in which we can reach flow state, and it's the only place in which we can ever perform our best. So yeah, I'm kind of blanking on the question that you asked me because I went on a little bit of a ramble, but you can ask it again and I can try and answer it this time.
Problem is I've probably forgotten the
Yeah,
question as well.
fair.
We'll pivot a little. Why do you think winning is frowned upon?
Oh, yeah, okay. Let's switch it up a little. Yeah. Well, winning is frowned upon, and I suppose it goes back onto what we were talking about last week. Like, I think it talks about when you say winning is frowned upon, I think winning is only frowned upon by people who are insecure within themselves. And people that are secure enough within themselves should want to see other people succeed and want to see other people reach their goals, because ultimately that's what we're all trying to do. So maybe there's an elevated level of that in Ireland, of people wanting to not see your downfall, but they'll be happy enough if you don't succeed and make it out and do your thing. I think ultimately at the root, when you ask why winning is frowned upon, it's because people who look down on winning are too scared to reach after their own goals and go towards things that they actually want to go and achieve. I think it's just blatant projection of insecurity.
That's it. It's really it's at the end of the day, it's almost like jealousy. People who win are often those who dare to be different and who are willing to put themselves out there and willing to fail in public so that they can win in public. And it's funny, seeing people talk about, let's say influencers nowadays. People are always like, oh, their life is so easy. They got so lucky. They've got 1 million followers, but they forget to look at the 1,081 posts beside the 1 million followers. Now, probably 1,000 of those posts failed at the end of the day, and maybe 80 of those posts went viral, and got them their 1 million followers. But it took those 1,000 other posts for those 80 to go viral. And I think people are very quick to judge and to say, you know, oh, that person is so lucky that they won, when they can't picture all the hard work that it took to get there. And again, people are just jealous of it. Honestly, they're jealous because they're unwilling to put the work in at the same level as someone who wants to win with everything in their whole body and their whole mind. It's that complete desire to get out of the trenches, or, you know, have obviously external validation, have the car, have the watch, have the girl, have that mansion or whatever, or also have just a better life for them and their family. You know, you always see the people who really succeed are often coming from nothing, and it's because they see no other way out. And it's always easy for someone to look down on you for trying, because maybe they are too scared to try themselves. And, you know, that's why, like, obviously I've done a lot of posting on social media. Like, I actually went back to through my TikToks there a while ago, because I started posting on TikTok again, kind of just here and there. Like, it's like, fuck, they're so cringy. But at the same time, you look back and you say, like, you actually are proud of that person who was willing to get a bit of stick, who was willing to stand out and be a bit different. And, you know, hopefully in 5 years' time, when maybe, you know, more of this has paid off, it's like you can look back and say, okay, well, people thought I was stupid. People thought I was, you know, delusional, let's say, for wanting to succeed. But I think it'll be so cool for people to hopefully I do succeed in whatever I want to do. Hopefully, and it's the exact same with you, hopefully we succeed, for people to go back and look and see that this is where they started from, and that it is a possibility. Because again, you often only see your influencers now that they've reached the heights that they have. And it's very rich for people to say, okay, they're so lucky, you know, they got everything handed to them when they've worked extremely hard to succeed. And like I said, it's almost like that jealousy and that I don't want to say hatred or within themselves, but, like, you know, it's ultimately it is jealousy in the fact that you wish you had what they have, but you aren't willing to put the same level of work in as they did. And that's why probably you won't be successful. So I really do feel like people need to be more open to people stepping outside the comfort zone, stepping outside the box, and not putting people down for trying. Because if you don't try, you won't succeed. And a lot of people are too scared to try, and that's why they probably will never succeed.
Yeah, I think it's courage over everything. Courage over
Yeah,
everything in
I
life,
love that.
and courage not only to go and venture outside the box and do the things that you want to do. It's also 90th minute Peno to win the cup final. It's there. It's not paying attention to hate comments that you get online if you're posting. That's what you want to do. Courage is the ability to go and do the thing regardless of the circumstances or regardless of any other external factors, because you believe in you believe in what you're doing, and that's what you want to do, and that's what you know is right. And I think, yeah, if a person asks me what's the most important thing that it takes to win, I think it's courage, and I think that's maybe a nice way to wrap it up and tie a bow on it. Is like, you gotta have the courage to believe there's a possibility. You gotta have a courage to continue to do things even when people tell you that you're not going to be able to do it, and you gotta have courage in the actual moment of completing the skill. So yeah, I when you were saying that, all I could think of was courage. And I think it's the most important trait to be able to have in when you're trying to succeed something or trying to chase a goal. You know.
I think on top of courage is like enjoying the whole process of
100%.
what you want to
100%.
do. Um, I'm definitely guilty, like I mentioned earlier, of the fact that I always want to succeed, but it's succeeding in the future, and it can take me out of the present moment. And I think in 5, 6 years' time, I'll look back on this moment, this exact moment, and be, proud and happy that the fact that or happy that I tried, and that we tried, and I really feel like enjoying now and enjoying the whole journey to success. And like you said, having that vision and having that idea that success is going to come if you execute on the day by day, but also if you enjoy the day by day. Because if you don't enjoy the day by day, that success, when you achieve it, the day after, you're just going to find the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
You'll work all your life to succeed this thing, but eventually you'll get to a stage where you get it and then you're still miserable. So I really do feel like enjoying that day by day is so important. And I'm, like I said, I'm guilty of it. It takes me out of the present a lot. And I love courage. Like, courage is such a massive word that people overlook because a lot of people don't have it. I really feel like a lot of people are, like I said, scared to try. And I think if you think about this, and like we could probably finish on this, like if something is possible, why can't you do it? And I think if you look at it from the lens of like, is anything impossible? Yes, of course. Like with physics and chemistry and science, things are impossible. But if we take an example of Sir Roger Bannister, he was the first person to run a 4 minute mile. Now, before him, people thought it was physically impossible to run this 4 minute mile. Yet, after he done it, loads more people followed. But it just took that one person to prove everyone wrong. Now, when he was training for his 4 minute mile attempt, people were probably saying, this fella's a lunatic. He's never going to do it, blah, blah, blah. If he would have let those haters win, he would have never achieved that feat. And maybe no one would have ever, because no one's ever tried it before. No one's ever done it. So I really feel like if something is possible, you should try and you should go out and seek it and do it. Because again, you will not lose. You'll learn or you'll win. Exact same as Sir Roger Bannister probably failed 10 times before he actually achieved his 4 minute mile. So, like you said, having the courage to and having the balls to get out and do it, along with the belief that anything is possible, and then just take it day by day and enjoy it. And maybe winning is not a destination. Maybe it's the journey. And you'll only find that. Geez, that was so cringy.
That was very cringy.
that was great though. I was thinking like this is gonna be some clip, and then you made me laugh, so it's not a clip anymore. But yeah, maybe winning is the journey.
No, but you're right. You are like at a certain point, you are right. Like that's and as cliche and as cringy as it is, it's so right because it's never. You ask anyone that's ever achieved anything in life, the ecstasy of succeeding or winning a World Cup or winning a World Heavyweight title dissipates within minutes of you actually achieving the thing. So if you are not able to go back and look on the work that you put in and you're proud of yourself and that's where you get your happiness from, you're completely fucked. So yeah, no, you're sorry for laughing at you, but that it is 100% right. And the final thing I would add in terms of, and maybe it's not really to do with winning or whatever, but the feeling of not trying or achieving something will always stand over you for so much longer and have such a bigger effect over you than failure or rejection or any
Resentment.
sort of, or fate. Yeah, any sort of feeling like that ever. The feeling of not trying is so much worse than the actual failure itself. So yeah, just go and do it and enjoy the process.
Just start. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, I really feel like this is probably needed. Like I think I needed this chat because again, it's something that I'm, like I said, dealing with a lot with the transition out of sports, with the injury, with a lot of shit that's going on. It's like you actually need to center yourself sometimes, and someone needs to tell you to fucking grow a set of balls and get out and do it. So
There you go.
yeah, this is a good chat.
Love it. Yeah, no, I've liked this one.
I think might as well leave it there. Let people get back to their whatever on a fine Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, yeah.
This was episode 14 of the podcast. We just hit 700 downloads, which again is another little milestone. I don't think again. I'm not motivated by the number. It obviously is cool, but I don't really think again it's that sole motivator for us to grow the podcast, because again I feel like I actually needed this chat more than
100%.
the audience.
Yeah.
So a cool way to hit a milestone, and I feel like over the next few weeks we're going to take this to a new level, with some guests coming on, with some more cool conversations, and hopefully people are enjoying it, and if not, so be it.
There you go. But at least but I like that. Like, we're getting something out of it, and I've loved chatting to you about these things, and even if no one listens for the rest of these episodes, at least we're learning things from this, and we're learning about kind of different perspectives. So even at that, it's great. So yeah, no, I'm liking it.
Definitely. We'll leave it at that. So,
cool.
Thank you everyone for listening, watching, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Peace out.